The show is about to begin. Enjoy.
Michael O'Grady e I Creativi.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 13 of Michael O'Grady and the Creatives. Don't laugh at me. I can see you laughing. My next guest is a good buddy of mine. That's why he's laughing, because I'm trying to be professional here. He is a awesome, talented musician, singer, songwriter, piano player extraordinaire. His his cover of Good Vibrations has been recently placed on The Kissing Booth 2, which you can watch on Netflix, and you can hear his amazing harmonizing voice of the Beach Boys cover, Good Vibrations. And as luck would have it, he has also toured with the Beach Boys as well, and the band Rooney. Please welcome my guest, Mr. Matthew Jordan. What's up, dude?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Thanks for that lovely intro. Oh, shucks. I feel,
I told you I was going to give you a good one.
You actually like me. I didn't think, I wasn't sure.
Well, it's not that I do. It's just that you have some pretty decent credits. So I was like, all right,
okay.
I'll put you on the show or whatever like that. I'll make nice with you here and everything.
Thanks. I appreciate you letting me on just because it made you look good. Thanks.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. That's all. That's only what I'm ever about. I'm like, can it make me look good? That's it. That's the whole thing. And that's what when I was giving you the intro, everybody that I know really well starts laughing at me when I start doing it because they're like, oh shit.
I just smiled. I did not laugh.
Okay, no, but they all have that same smile of like, oh, he's really doing something here. He's not like totally
He's a personality.
Right, exactly. Welcome to
You're already a personality though. Before you had a show, you were a personality.
I've been told that I've been told that I need to come out of my shell a little bit more. People say that I'm too reserved out in public situations. So I got to work on
Which people say that?
Nobody.
Like, I'd like to talk to those people. I think they're a little confused.
They are. They got the wrong perception of me. The only time I get really shy and quiet is if I have before COVID, when we were allowed to go out and play shows and socialize. Everybody will, some people drink to socialize. I like drinking, having a couple of beers every now and again or whatever. The other thing about it too, though, is the thing that makes me antisocial is another particular substance that just makes me, if I do it, which I don't do that often, I will clam up, I will get really quiet, and I will be.
Would I venture to say you're referring to marijuana? Right?
That is correct, sir. Yes, exactly. Yes,
it is legal now. You're allowed to say it.
Oh, okay. I still have it in. I get.
You cannot get busted. That's funny though.
Don't tell my mom.
That only happens to me if I have like way too much of it, and then I'm just like, I get like a little paranoid.
Yeah, I know.
That takes a lot.
For me, I just get right inside my head, and my immediate thought is, let's get the fuck out of here. I gotta go right now. I gotta go home. Actually, funny enough, thinking about that just reminded me of, and we're gonna get into all your fun, cool shit here in a second. A couple of years ago, and I've talked about this before on the show, is that, all of us musicians here in LA, we do a bunch of jams and we hang out and we play shows and stuff like that. One of the jams that we always do is at the Viper Room on Monday nights. The Sunset
the Sunset Jam.
The Sunset Jam. And one night in particular, I went there and I was just hanging out. I think it was dating some girl at the time or whatever like that. And it was like her friends and all that stuff. And one of the friends had like edibles. And if anybody out there knows anything about edibles, is that they're super strong, or they can be.
Right.
So he had these gummy ones, and it was kind of like it's like a disc. It was like a lifesaver almost. You know what I mean? Really tiny. Whatever. He's like, "Do you want this?" He's like, "It's really nothing." And I'm like, okay. And then as it goes, like, I think maybe like an hour into being there, I was like, oh no, I'm starting to feel really, really different, man. Like,
yeah, you are.
Yeah. And it was really fun.
Did you have to play?
No, actually,
that would have been fun.
Thank God. Cause I don't think I would have been, if I would have been used to it, maybe I could have done it, but I wasn't used to it. And then I do remember that night in particular was you did a cover of Tiny Dancer.
Oh, it was Elton John, Billy Joel night.
Was it that night in specifics?
I think that's the only time I've done Tiny.
Well, then
maybe.
There you
Yeah.
go. I just remember you being up there doing Tiny Dancer, and I was
I
like,
think my parents actually, that was the one time they came to the Sunset Jam. So they probably
if that was the
met you for the first time super high because you've met him since then. But yeah, that's quite
right,
possible.
exactly. They were probably just like, he's a little
Yeah,
different.
edibles will F you up, man. I
Yeah.
have a similar story. When I first started dating my now wife, I took her to see Jack's Mannequin at the House of Blues in Anaheim. And like I'm a relatively late bloomer when it comes to pot. Like I didn't really start smoking much till my late 20s. And I hadn't done edibles too much. And I
Right.
ended up having some edibles. And I had also had a lot to drink. And that combination, like the show had not even started yet. And I almost passed out. Like security had to like walk me outside to get some air. And like thankfully I recovered and went and enjoyed the show. But that was fun. That
Oh,
was a
really? Wait, what
yes.
date? What date were you in? Like,
It-
how far along in the relationship? Like, super early?
maybe about 6 months in.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
So it was enough so that it was like
It wasn't like a
okay.
first
It was
date
like
and you
our
blew
first
it.
overnight trip. We like got an Airbnb for New Year's Eve
Hey,
and
there
went and
you
saw
go.
this show.
You're like, I'm gonna let you know what kind of guy I really am.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, because
Anyway.
if it had been first date or like third date, she could have been like, I gotta go. Bye.
Yeah, and
exactly.
especially because like she's no lightweight. Like she's way less of a lightweight than me.
Oh, really?
Like I'm gonna like if we go out, I'm way more likely to order a girly drink, and she's gonna be like whiskey.
Right.
I like whiskey too, but I'm definitely more of a chick than she is when it comes to.
They
drinks.
bring you over like the whiskey and like the Cosmopolitan, and then like they hand it to, and you have to like do the little dance where you flip them over,
Right?
Because they give you to you or whatever. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm a firm believer, and that's what scares me about now. The latest craze is all the kids are doing nowadays. They are doing the White Claws,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've had a few nights of having some of those, and here's why I don't like them. I like them because you can keep drinking them. Do you know what I mean?
You,
It's not
you
like
do like or you don't like the White Claws?
I like them. They taste very nice, but you can keep constantly drinking them. It's not like when you have like shitty or really strong beer, you hit a
Sure.
threshold where you're like, okay, I'm done drinking.
I can't drink any more of this. I am gonna throw up. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's
No,
like
you can just keep drinking White Claws.
you can just keep going,
I
and then
also
you're
like them-
thinking, I'm
yeah.
fine. I'm not gonna be wasted, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what just happened? I don't really know.
Right, and I like it because no one makes fun of you for drinking them, but like they're pretty girly. So
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, nobody does. It's not like, I remember when I was growing up, it was like Mike's Hard Lemonades and Zimas and the Smirnoff Ices.
Mike's Hard Lemonade and Smirnoff Ice, you still kind of got like.
They got
Even I
flack.
was hesitant to drink that shit.
Yeah, they got like a little
It's
bit
too
of
girly.
flack in it. Yeah, exactly.
But
That's why.
somehow White Claw has transcended the like that's a college girl drink like threshold, even though it is a college girl drink. It's
Right.
weird.
Yeah, I know. It's exactly, yeah. But I mean, I think we can just all man up and go, you know what? It tastes fruity and I like it. I don't care. I'll drink them.
Michael O'Grady and the Creatives is sponsored by White Claw.
Oh my God, White Claws. I want to get a sponsorship from you guys. That would be rad. And I would drink one. I would do it.
On the
I would
show.
totally do it.
I would
It's
drink
great.
one on the show.
Yeah, my favorite flavor is mango. So
Those are good. I like black cherry a lot as well.
that's good too.
And
as well.
grapefruit is always very good.
Right, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so
Are you sure you're not sponsored by White Claw? Okay.
that would be so rad. If anybody out there is listening and has a connection, let's hook it up. I want to
So I have a
talk
bunch
to
of
you.
cases behind you in the background. Anyway,
Yeah, it'll
moving
be-
on to music.
Yeah, it'll be like one of those things like you get like free hot dogs for life, and then those people 6 years later are like, we can't take any more hot dogs. It's too much hot dogs. And, they're handing them out to their friends and passing them out and everywhere. Anyway, back to serious business so that people are like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? It's good to catch up with you, man. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you. When was the last time I saw you?
Damn, it's been a while.
It's been a
Because
couple
I don't
of
think
months.
we've seen each other during the pandemic.
Not at all. That's why we're doing this via Zoom right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is all
I'm
via
trying to set a
Zoom.
good example, okay?
I know. You know what? Because I've been
sucks.
trying. Because that's the thing too, and I'll clarify too, in case anybody cares. Because a lot of my episodes, except for the last two before this, they were in person, And some people, you know, it's at that time where it's like, I've gotten tested twice so far. The people I had come over, they got tested or whatever, and everything was good.
I don't think you have COVID. Don't worry.
No, 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 no. But at the same time, too, the thing that we're dealing with here in LA is because, like, I don't know what's going on now, but I know we were like one of the worst states. We were one of the worst sides of the country because, you know, there's so many people who don't like believe in wearing the masks or believe in the protocols that everybody's like, you know, trying to do. And that's like what's really annoying is because it's like I want to do the show and I want to have people over, but I don't also want to be now I'm going, yeah, let's do it through Zoom because I don't want to be part of the problem. You know what I mean? I would rather
It's
us
hard. I mean, like, cool. If someone feels super cool with it, like, I think
right.
you should honestly leave it up to whoever. But so many podcasts do it this way too. I mean, like my brother
Yeah,
has a podcast.
that's
I'll
right.
shout out to his it's called Another Miserable Podcast. It's a
Another
horror
miserable.
movie podcast.
Yeah, I know. I remember a couple of years ago. Yeah, shout out to your brother on that for Another Miserable Podcast. That's what it's called,
Yes,
right?
that is what it's called.
Yeah, and I remember he sold it to me really well. He was just like, "It's another miserable podcast. Check it out," or whatever like that. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
But he's done like 30 episodes of it, and he has two co-hosts, and they do them all via Zoom. So
That's how they've always done it.
yep.
All right. Anyway, that's awesome. Anywho, check out Another Miserable Podcast. Let's get down to it. Let's get down to business. By the sorry, awesome record collection behind you, by the way.
Thanks. It's my
Yeah.
wall art and my record.
Tilt your head back this way a little bit. Let's see the Sgt. Peppers.
There it is.
Is that an original?
I mean, it was my dad's, so probably.
No shit. That's rad, dude.
Yeah.
Well, because you know how
Most
like,
of these on my wall were my dad's. Like I have a lot of records that I have procured through 99-cent bins and record stores since then.
Sure,
but when I first moved out, I wanted to put records on my wall because Urban Outfitters had like record frames. It was like the hipster thing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Dad, can I read your record collection? He was like, all right. And I just friggin' took all the best records and put them on my wall.
Good on your dad. My dad would never let me take any of his records. That's good on him. Yeah. Because I mean, well, because there's sometimes like people can get like a record, and I've had people get me records as gifts of you know certain bands and artists that I like, and I'll notice that they bought the brand new version, like a reprint or whatever, but it wasn't like obviously they didn't get like. You know, for instance, here, like I got, you know, Mr. Senor Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
yeah.
This is really from when it was printed and when the album came out and everything. And yeah, that's what I'm always interested in too, because I'm like, I don't want to buy the one that they redid.
Right. So if I ever buy you a record and it's the new edition, you're gonna throw it at my head or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna break your face with it over your.
I don't want this.
And then I'm gonna chug your apple teeny in front of you.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, so I want to know more about, and again, one of the whole points of me doing this Michael O'Grady and the Creatives podcast is to talk to my friends and, you know, not just musicians, but anybody who's like a creative type of person and whatever they do in the entertainment business, especially here in LA. And one of the things that I find really fascinating is that you were able to do this cover of Good Vibrations all on your own, if I'm correct. And you did this a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And that is the cover that you did that got placed on the Kissing Booth too. Is that correct?
That's right. So this, honestly, this cover has kind of made my entire career. At the time, it was like probably almost 7 years ago, maybe now. It was a while ago. It's an old cover, right?
Wow.
So before I was even touring, doing any gigs, I was doing YouTube videos. It was kind of how like I started like trying to build a fan base, because I started just as a singer-songwriter and I was doing my own shows. So I was doing a lot of YouTube covers and I learned how to edit video. And I was one of those guys who did the covers showing myself like playing all the instruments, singing all the parts. It was like very much in fashion for the better part of a decade. Not so much anymore, but I started doing this. And back then, everybody was always trying to cover the new hit song by whoever. So like Justin Bieber released his new song like, "Oh Baby, I Love You" or whatever. Fucking making shit up. And everybody's trying to cover it, because the sooner you cover it, if you get your cover up the day it comes out, then guess what? When everyone looks up that song, your cover is right there, like on the first page.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was trying to do that. I was trying to do that for like a while. After a while, I was just like, I cannot fucking cover another Justin Bieber song. I can't do it. I was like, I want to cover something that I love. And I was like, Well, I had done a cover of God Only Knows when I was just starting to do these. That was like, the video quality wasn't quite there. I was still figuring it out, but I've always loved the Beach Boys. Like, I have Pet Sounds on my wall. It's my favorite album of
Right.
all time. I'm pretty obsessed with it. God Only Knows has always been pretty much my favorite song. So I'm a huge Beach Boys nerd.
Right.
And I'd always wanted to try and do Good Vibrations cover to cover. Like, it is
Really?
such a, it was kind of one of those things I wanted to do to see if I could do it. Like,
Right.
it's sort of like, remember when we did Bohemian Rhapsody at Sayers without any rehearsals? It's like something sort of like that. Like, can you
Let's
pull this
wait.
off
Let's
with no rehearsal?
we got to talk about that for like 2 seconds, real quick,
Sure.
just so everybody knows. Like that to me is one of the coolest fucking things I have ever been a part of. We got to do that together,
Yeah,
which was
yeah.
even more bananas because it's such a piano guitar song.
Sure.
Right. And it's, you know, what's weird though, too, is like you think Bohemian Rhapsody is like 8 or 10 minutes, but it's really only like 5.5 minutes.
It's not that long.
It's not that long of a song, but it's epic and there's so many parts. And for those of you who don't know, and before COVID, we used to do this weekly night thing, another jam at Sayers Club, and it was Matt Beckley's birthday that night. And of course, that night is like any other night where we're learning like 20 other covers and 20 other, or like you learn like 10 covers and you learn like 7 originals from artists who are performing there that night.
Because it wasn't like a jam where we just do one song. We were like playing the whole set.
We're playing the whole set. We're a part of like the house band, and shout out to Matt Beckley for that night, and Dale's Hotel, which is Brian Dale Logan, and shout out to Rod Castro and Nick Rosen for being the MD and putting all that out there.
Sloan, I think he goes by Sloan now.
That's his artist. Yeah, exactly.
He's been taken off on that during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that's what this is the time to do it now too. And
side note on that real quick, I think it's
What?
funny that he wears this mask that covers everything but his mouth. Anyway.
Oh, that is funny. I didn't think about it. It's like Batman is like the superhero. Like we can't use Batman.
It's like you can't. You still can't go to the supermarket.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Wow. Isn't that weird how things happen? Yeah, that is funny.
Anyway.
But yeah, so it was one of those nights, and we didn't tell Matt Beckley because Matt Beckley was playing guitar with me and Rod Castro. We didn't tell him about the Bohemian Rhapsody cover. That was going to be like a special treat for him.
Oh yeah.
He was in the audience.
It was a surprise.
It was a total surprise. There was a choir, and again, we did not, and we never do a rehearsal. And so it was one of those things where most of the time Rosen will, and this is a thing where a lot of working musicians out here in LA, where if you get to be a part of certain things, and one of the things that I didn't know moving out here is just how quick you have to be on your feet, because most of the time, and somebody like Nick and a night like Sayers, they go with the vibe. And then all of a sudden, somebody can show up in the audience and he goes, oh my God, like Jessica's here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this song. We're going to do one of hers, or we're going to do like a cover that she's good at singing. And it's like, hey, do you know Oh Darling?
Hope you know it.
Hope you know it. We're doing it. Like, and that's what, so you got to be quick on your feet. And usually we'll get the list of the songs like 2 nights before, or maybe the night before.
Or maybe like the day of.
Or the day of. It depends
Every once in a while.
Right. Depends on how problematic they are. But when we did Bohemian Rhapsody, that one, I swear he sent that to us like 2 weeks in advance, 3 weeks in advance.
Oh yeah, he let us know way in advance.
Right. He was like the email and the text basically said, do not fuck this up because we're doing it. Like, do not fuck it up at all. I think the only rehearsal that you might have been a part of was just a couple of hours.
I showed up for like, we didn't even use
vocal.
the sound check, but I showed up for the equivalent of a sound check to run it with the vocalist, piano vocalist.
Right. That was it. That was all
we
that.
We did it like one time. It's like, okay.
And you know, the weird thing about that is too, is that sometimes those kind of songs go over the best because you're so nervous about fucking it up. And you really make sure, like, I have one shot, one opportunity, to not blow this. So it went off like without a hitch. Like, I remember that was a blast. And big credit to you, Mr. Piano Player. That is a huge fucking piano song. I'm still to this day working on it, and I'm only at the first.
But, well, anyway, circling back, like I said, it's kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like, I wanted to do Good Vibrations because, first of all, I love harmonies. I am a giant harmony nerd. So anytime I'm arranging like a cover, or even in my own stuff a lot, I love working in vocals. I love Brian Wilson and his vocals. And so I was like, I want to record all these parts and I want to do it like fucking spot on to the record. Now, I added 1 or 2 little sections that weren't in the record because I always believe in like putting your own thing in it.
Little stamp
But
on it. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel. It's Good Vibrations. So I did this cover, and I edited this video together with this sort of like, I got some stock animated footage that kind of looked like Yellow Submarine, like 60s retro, and did this whole like music video for it and put it online. And like, it did modestly well for a number of views for like an older song that most of those YouTube teens didn't know. And I kind of just forgot it. I mean, I never forgot about it. I was super proud of it, but it was just like, okay, I'm done with that.
Okay, I did that. Yeah.
Years later, I'll rewind after this, but for Kissing Booth, the music supervisor literally just needed a cover of that song and was looking up covers on YouTube, found mine, liked it, went to my website and emailed me and was like, hey, would you be interested in licensing this for this movie? And I was just like, I hadn't even put it on iTunes at that point. I was like, yeah, sure. So she sent me like sort of a pre-licensing agreement way back in December and was just like, well, if it makes the final cut, you'll get paid. If not, nothing's going to happen. You won't know for like 4 months. And at the time I was just kind of like, this will be amazing if it happens. But like, it's like, things are going fine. Like, you know, if it doesn't happen, it'll be disappointing, but I'll be okay. And then all of a sudden COVID happened and there were no gigs for anyone. And I was just like, well, shit, I really hope this happens now.
Yep.
And it really ended up being like a lifesaver for me. The song is like the last song in the movie. Like my voice singing Good Vibrations accompanies the last shot that slams to black of the movie.
Oh, that's so badass.
Cool.
And that's
Yeah,
kind of usually the song that everybody remembers at the end.
Yeah.
It's the one that's at the end of the movie.
So it's on iTunes now and it's on Spotify. It just cracked 150,000 streams on Spotify.
Woo!
Yeah.
Awesome.
I
Congrats.
might make like $5. And
I know, right? How, geez, really? It's that,
I don't know
I
the
heard it's
actual
bad,
rate.
but I don't.
I don't really know for sure. I think if I luck out, I might make like a few $100 maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I don't care. It's just, it's cool to have. I've never been able to get a lot of streams on Spotify when I put stuff up there. I hadn't figured that out. And so it's cool to have like one song that like looks like someone.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, but that's the cool thing about like anything that like, especially when you're a fan of the Beach Boys and you did this for your own, like, just be like, I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And little do we know is that what's cool about the internet, what's cool about YouTube and everything is that a couple of years later, somebody's specifically going, I want and do they say why they want a cover of Good Vibrations? Is it because they can't use
They can't afford the original.
I was going to say,
Netflix is like, we're not paying for that.
Right,
so,
right.
Know.
But they can do a cover of it.
Right, because I think with a cover, you don't have to license the actual original recording, which is a huge fee, right?
Right.
So you still need a sync license, and there's still the songwriter gets royalty off of it, but it costs way less to license it because they're licensing my track, not the track.
Oh, so even if it is, let's say, I mean, did you do it in the same key?
Yeah.
And everything is pretty much the same except for those.
Pretty much the same.
Pretty
except
close.
There are like two little vocal sections of like a couple bars each, where like in the middle I go to this like a cappella vocal like thing out of nowhere, and at the end I do this cool little jazz chord instead of fading it out. And that's about it.
Oh, okay. So, but so it's not like they can come to you and be like, "Hey, man, that's exactly like our song. You can't do that."
No, I mean anyone can. You're allowed to license. Like anyone can release a cover on iTunes now. Like I use a site called DistroKid to release my music, and I was able to release Good Vibrations on iTunes through them. I just uploaded my track. And I had to say it was a cover and who the original writers were. And at first, I had to actually get Netflix to give me permission to put from the Netflix film, The Kissing Booth 2 in the title, because I wanted people to find it from looking the song up.
Oh, that's really smart. That's really cool.
Yeah,
so
and
when
so
you put it up, it's like from...
Yeah, it says it. So if someone looks up The Kissing Booth 2,
that's a good tip.
My song comes up.
For all
the thing about that is...
people out there, that's a good tip.
I asked the music supervisor and she's like, well, you need to get permission from the marketing people at Netflix. Here's the person's information, write her. And I was like, uh-oh. And I wrote her and they actually approved it. But the funny thing is what I almost got in trouble for is I put it online that way. But in the album art that no one cares about digitally, I put a little like, it's almost like there's a sticker on it from the Netflix film, The Kissing Booth 2 that I did. I just like put a little like spiky shape with text in it with a white background.
Yeah.
And when I sent it to Netflix, because they have an official Spotify playlist for The Kissing Booth too, which is how I got a lot of streams.
There you go.
And when I sent it to Netflix, they were like, "Oh, well, we have to make sure it's okay that you put that on your album art." And I'm like, "No one can see the album. It's like it's like a 20th the size of the album art,
Yeah.
you know? And the album art's already tiny." I'm like, "Really? That's what? Okay." But
Right.
they were like, "We'll let you know," and then they never said anything, and they put it in the playlist. So I guess it was okay.
Yeah.
It was
Exactly.
sort of strange. What you know?
It's
I
just
assume
probably
since I can put it in the title, I'm fine to put it on the actual album art. But
it's just probably somebody just doing their due diligence in their job, and they pick up on something, and they're like, if I don't say something. Do you know what I mean? It could be one of those things. And then they go back to the people that are ahead of them or behind them and go, hey, do we care about this? And they go, no, thanks. And you're like, all right, whatever, I'm out. You know what I mean?
yeah.
There's so many things that happen like that all the time where like, I mean, that's the weird thing about this like entertainment business is that there's like really like no, I mean, there's rules and whatever, but the amount of times I hear somebody getting away with something on like some weird technicality or they're like, they were supposed to follow up.
There's a lot of technicalities out there. Remember when I think it was Wolfpack released like a silent track on Spotify and they told everyone, hey, put this on repeat while you go to sleep at night and help us fund our next album. And it got like 1 billion streams of this like silence track. And
I did not know
Spotify
this.
got like super pissed off afterward.
Because they
But it
found
was
a
too late.
loophole.
They found a loophole. Yeah. So people
No
would loop this, go to sleep, wake up, and it's streamed like 150 times overnight or whatever.
Like per person.
Yeah, per person. And
No
yeah,
shit,
they
I didn't know they did that. That's
thousands
fucking
of
rad.
dollars. They made
Wow.
thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Oh, and that's did they get sued over it? Did they go to
They
court?
didn't get sued, but I think Spotify was just like, can't do that anymore.
Yeah, they're like, damn it, Ted. You're
They're
supposed
like,
to look
God,
after
they-
this shit.
They're like, they found a loophole. Close the loophole. God damn it.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah. Wow. Oh man, too bad you probably. I'm sure they have something in their terms and conditions now that says you can't do.
I'm
that.
sure.
Like
Yeah,
it
because
has
someone
to have,
found a way to break Spotify, and they're like, nope.
It just takes that one person, and then now we're like, oh, that's a great idea. Had we thought of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they already had like a good status and everything to where they had enough probably people in their corner to where they could do that. You know what I mean? You know, if you and I did it, we would make like $10 or something. Or you would make like 100, I'd make 10. Stream my silence at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then how did the Beach Boys come about?
Kind of the same way. So that same cover, this was like 1.5 years, 2 years earlier. Like I said, that cover has kind of like made my career, and now I'm like the Beach Boys guy, which I'm happy to be the Beach Boys guy because that's like I'm the Beach Boys guy, like without doing any of this stuff. I love the Beach Boys.
Right.
So that cover, same cover.
But do they love you?
Do the Beach Boys love me? They
Yes.
tolerate me. But yeah, that same cover. I was like off on a random corporate gig. I was somewhere. I think I was like on a corporate gig in the Dominican Republic of all places, like halfway across the world. Not a bad place to be, but random.
Yeah, sure.
And I get a Facebook message out of nowhere saying from a producer named Sam Hollander. And he's going, hey, someone referred me to you because of your Good Vibrations cover. I'm working on some albums with Mike Love from the Beach Boys, one of the original Beach Boys, the cousin of Brian Wilson. And he's like, I'm looking for someone to help arrange some of the background vocals who sounds like the Beach Boys. Would you be interested? And I'm just like, are you joking? Yeah. And I like look up Sam Hollander, and he's super legit. Like, first of all, a word about Sam Hollander. I call him like my rock and roll fairy godfather because he just came out of nowhere and made all my musical dreams come true. This guy brings me into the studio, has me record some backgrounds on like a very bare bones track that Mike Love had sung on, a piano vocal. And he's like, I want to get Mike excited about this. So I need it to sound more like the Beach Boys. Put a bunch of oohs and ahs and shit. And I did all that. And sure enough, Mike really liked it. And I ended up arranging vocals on about half. That was a Christmas album. Reason for the Season. I did vocals on about half that album. And the next year, and after that happened, Sam Hollander, he says to me, all right, I'm going to get you in the band. I'm like, you're going to get me in the Beach Boys? I'm like, first of all, I'm a little young, not like that I mind, but like, I'm like, how are you?
Right.
Number one, how? Number two, why? What are you looking for? I'm like, I'm straight, dude. Like,
Yeah.
He's straight too. He's married with kids, but like, you
Right.
never know. You
Yeah.
never know. I'm just like, what? Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me. He's just like, I've done this before. Trust me. This is how this shit works. And I'm just like, what shit? I'm like, I have been in the industry a while. I've had plenty of people act like they're going to be amazing and do awesome things for me that have turned out to be huge douches.
It's a
Okay.
lot of talk. Yeah.
I do not believe anything. And I'm just like, what's in this for you? And this guy,
Right.
like Sam, like is the kind of guy who out of the blue one day, after I did that first album, he texts me, he's like, what are you doing right now? I'm like, I'm sitting here, like recording some random shit. What's up? He's like, can you be at the Capitol building in an hour? I'm like, yeah, what's up? He's like, just come meet me at the Capitol building. I get there, he gives me a laminate, and I go and I get into this like Sirius XM Beach Boys panel with all the original Beach Boys, including Brian Wilson, moderated by Rob Reiner, because they were launching a Beach Boys Sirius XM channel.
Whoa.
And, they did a big panel in the studio they originally were recording like Pet Sounds and shit in.
Right.
Like it was just like, oh, like.
Did you ever meet him before this?
Sam?
No, the Beach Boys.
I had not met any of the Beach Boys.
This was the first time you were meeting him.
I met Mike Love once in the studio.
Right, but for but everybody else, you're like, hey, I did your cover, or I was on your Christmas album.
So it's just really random. But Sam is he's just that guy. When I asked him, like, why are you so nice? He's just like, people did this for me when I was younger, so I pay it forward. And I'm
there you go.
That is insane. I'm like, you are one of the like 2% of people in the music industry who actually like is a fucking amazing person. Like, you know, like on that side of the industry, at least. Sam has done since then. And I mean, karma, it's good karma because he's a good dude. Like he's a really great songwriter too. So he had co-written and produced like Hand Clap by Fitz and the Tantrums. Like,
yeah.
Bunch of stuff. And most recently, you will know him as the co-writer and producer of all of Panic at the Disco's last hits, including High Hopes.
Oh,
so
no
he
way.
is pretty well off.
Right. Yeah.
That was a massive hit.
He does his job and everything.
I'm just like, why is this guy who's like dealing with people way above me and like in a different stratosphere from where I am, like giving me a hand up? But he's just like, I have been telling Mike, he has to hire you to get you in the band. He has to get you on stage. He's like, it's going to happen. And the first time it happened, I'm actually just remembering now, you mentioned I toured with Rooney a couple times. Yeah. And I was about to depart, and we'll talk about Rooney later probably, but I was about to depart on my second tour with Rooney. The day before our first show, I get a call from Sam asking if I want to sub for 2 Beach Boys shows that weekend. And it was the night before our first Rooney show. We had rehearsed for 2 weeks for it. I was running the whole show and backing tracks on my computer. That's
how it always goes.
I was like, I can't fuck these guys over that bad. I can't do it. If he had asked me, can you come do like a whole tour with the Beach Boys, I might have had to say yes.
Be like, fuck you guys. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, but I get it. Yeah. No, I get
you. For 2 shows, I was like, I can't do it.
Well, like you said, it's that good karma vibe. Yeah. You don't just, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So he was just like, are you sure you don't want to do this? I'm like, I can't do it, dude. And I was like crushed, but I show up to the Rooney tour and I'm just like, well, you guys will never believe where I could be right now. And they're just like, when they found out, they're just like, wait, what? They were like incredulous I was there. I'm like, dude, I'm not an asshole. It's the first show of our tour tonight.
I would have done the same thing. I would have been like, well, also too, I think it's one of those things where when you have a commitment, you stick to that commitment unless there is something you could do. Let's say if you were not running the tracks and you weren't doing all that, but you did the right thing as far as going, thank you, but I already have a prior commitment. Here's the other thing. If you tell somebody, I think, in that regard where you go, look, I would love to do this, but I already have something going on and I cannot let them down because of A, B, C, D, and F.
Makes you look good.
I think that makes you just look even better because they're like, wow, maybe we really could use this guy in the future because he's committed and he doesn't flake out or F people over.
It came back around. It took like a year, but it came back around.
Wow.
Yeah, it took like a year, but sure enough, I finally get the call. Hey, Matt, there's this one. So they wanted me to sub with them mostly as a singer. And, I'm a keyboard player by trade and I sing a lot, but generally speaking, when I'm hired, it's hired to do both. And they already have a keyboard player. What they needed was a guy to sing all the falsetto parts. They needed a guy to go, everybody's going surfing, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so those are hard parts to sing.
They are.
And they knew I could do it. So their guy who did all those parts, who is normally a guitar player, was out on paternity leave for about 3 months.
Oh, okay.
And they needed someone. They found a guitarist who could sing the parts to fill in, but that guy couldn't do one show. There was one show. And they're like, shoot, we don't have anyone for this one show. And they're like, well, we already have a keys player, but Matt can just play extra keys. And, it's just one show. So I fly up to British Columbia, Vancouver, to do a show called Canafest, a rock festival in British Columbia. Canafest for cannabis, by the way.
Oh, I was thinking Canafest for Canada.
Maybe both, but
It maybe is both. That's really clever of them. Good on you, Canafest.
And it was, I'm trying to remember who the other headliner of this night was. It was a very random night of music. I can tell you that. I am completely blanking on the headliner, but it was someone a lot more like hard rock and roll, than the Beach Boys.
Damn it, Matt! I bring you on this podcast and you can't think of one thing. I mean, should we just
let me Google it for a second? But no,
you can.
Not important.
You can if you want.
That's not important. That's not a factor of the story.
I'm just messing with you.
I fly up to British Columbia, having never rehearsed with the Beach Boys, by the way. Not
there you
once. Go. This is how this shit works.
I know it is.
Can you do this show? No rehearsal. I didn't even get a fucking sound check, Mike.
Right.
My first time singing with the Beach Boys.
Vocals, and you're doing high falsetto.
The high fucking vocals. Never rehearsed, no sound check, because normally they get a sound check, but this was a rock festival.
Right, it ain't happening.
First of all, thank goodness it was the abbreviated set. So the Beach Boys do either like a 45 to 50 minute set, or they do a set with an intermission that's twice as long. This was a short set, right?
Yeah.
So they sent me a bunch of recordings from a show they had done in Europe that summer, with all the band on one ear and my vocal parts on the other, to learn all my parts.
Right.
So I'm listening to this, and for about a month and a half, I'm just singing along to this,
Right.
Thinking at the very least, I'm going to get a fucking sound check. No. I get up there, I get in the night before the show, I meet the band and sit with them in a cafe at like a Holiday Inn, or it's a Hilton Garden Inn.
Yeah.
And it was in Spokane, Washington, because we flew there and then drove the next day like 3 hours.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And I'm meeting all these guys for the first time. Except, I had met Mike, like I said, once before in the studio, but, and I also had met the drummer and bass player. The drummer is a guy named John Cowsill. If you remember, you might not know, a band called the Cowsills from like the 60s. They were like the Partridge Family.
Oh,
so
really?
He was like a child musician in a family band, basically.
Right.
And now he's the drummer for the Beach Boys. He's such a weird and wacky dude. He's a funny guy. But all these guys in the band are like minimum 10 years older than me, like minimum, right? So, and most of them have been in the band forever, like for 30 years, some of these guys.
Oh yeah.
Like
they're the Beach Boys.
This is like, so there's two camps of the Beach Boys. There's Brian Wilson's band that tours as Brian Wilson. And it's him and Al Jardine, and they'll have like some of their people. And then there's the Beach Boys, which Mike Love has the rights to tour as the Beach Boys. And that's Mike Love, and Bruce Johnston is the other like quasi-original from the band. Bruce actually replaced Brian Wilson on tour when Brian went a little cuckoo for a little bit there. Let's tell it like it is.
Yeah,
so Bruce replaced Brian.
I think that's kind of general knowledge, right? With Brian Wilson, right?
Bruce replaces Brian on the road while Brian stays home making pet sounds, basically.
Yeah.
So Mike and Bruce tour together. Bruce Johnston also won a Grammy for writing the song "I Write the Songs" by Barry Manilow.
That's the name of the song, is called "I Write the Songs."
I Write the Songs. Yes.
Wow, way to hit the nail on
Barry Manilow
right on the nose.
Barry Manilow has a hit with it, and he didn't write the fucking song.
Yeah, I know. That's there you go. I know. Isn't that how it always goes?
But yeah, so it's Mike and Bruce, and then like their longtime group of touring guys. So I show up talking to everyone, and everyone's just like, okay, well, we know this kid sounded good on the record, but like, we have no idea if this guy can pull this shit off live. Like, we've never worked with him. He's some young kid. I mean, okay, yeah, at the time I'm like 30, 35. So, but I'm still a kid to them, which is super fun.
Right.
Because
previously they were a little.
When I was on the road with Rooney, I was like the fucking senior citizen. Like, there were people in that band, like Max Flanders is like 22, and I'm like his dad, basically.
Right.
So I'm like the dad of Rooney and like the child of the Beach Boys. It's fun.
Right, exactly. No,
I'm a chameleon, though. I pride myself on my ability to kind of like blend in everywhere. I'm like that like gif of Homer Simpson where he just merges into the bushes.
Right.
Like the bushes is like whatever act I'm with, and that Homer is me.
I think that's what you kind of have to be like, or what,
Yeah.
as a lot of us musicians, we end up kind of doing that kind of stuff. If you're like, you go with one vibe or you go with another, and you just got to try to like kind of like fit the mold. So that way when people see you on stage, or they feel a good authenticity at least.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
yeah, so we drive up for the show, and it's very like kind of flying by the seat of your pants. Like the Beach Boys travel with like a pretty good road crew, and all the guys in the crew and the TM and like front of house guy, and they're all just like, most of our shows aren't like this. Like we'll get you in here again for a normal like cool show where there's like,
Oh, that's nice. That's sweet
yeah.
of them. Yeah,
they
yeah.
were all
Yeah.
so great. Like their crew is amazing. Everyone is amazing. It's kind of funny. Mike Love has a reputation for being such an asshole, and he's so nice. Like it's funny. He's been the sweetest guy in the world to me.
Is he
but,
gonna
like,
see this episode and be like, "Hey"?
he knows.
Who?
I'm sure he knows what his reputation is because
He's like, "Who said
he-
that?"
So when the Beach Boys got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you can look this up, this was like in the early 80s, Mike Love gets on the mic and proceeds to run down like the Beatles and all these people. And he's just like, we're better, like basically, and in so many words. I don't know the exact speech, but if you look it up, it's like Mike Love like
Sorry.
took a fucking flamethrower to like the Rock and Roll Hall
just
of Fame.
dissing on
inductees.
everybody. Yeah.
So ever since then, everyone's like, he's an asshole. Well, he's mellowed out a lot. He does transcendental meditation all the time.
Oh, there
He's
you
like
go.
a super mellow dude now.
Right.
And he's never been anything but gracious to me. So
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I've obviously from everything that you know, you know, it's funny though. Have you ever heard whichever one of the Gallaghers it is? I forget always who is who.
Liam is the asshole.
It's probably him. You ever see?
I mean, they're both kind of assholes, but Liam is the original asshole.
He did a thing where he knocked the shit out of the Beach Boys, and I thought it was the funniest shit ever. And I mean, I love the Beach Boys, just like you.
I mean,
you
it
know.
might have been Noel if he said something silly.
But you know what he
They're
did
good,
was
yeah.
he was just like oh fuck them. The only reason why they ever got popular is because the first three letters of their band is the same as the Beatles. So alphabetically, so in the record stories, I'm doing a terrible Oasis accent. I don't even know what their accent
In the
is.
record store.
It's like it's the Beatles and then it's the Beach Boys. They were right next to them. It's the only fucking reason why anybody heard of them. And I was just like, it's just like
I think that was if
I
Oasis
thought that
was from Brooklyn. Then
yeah,
that was
it's
what
it's the fucking Beatles. Anyway, I don't know, but I just remember that interview because they asked him like, what are your thoughts on this band? What are your thoughts on this band? And he laid
That's
into the
hilarious.
Beach Boys like, you know, like they fucked him over somehow. He was like mad about them. Like, why do fucking people like them? Like, arr, arr. You know, I just thought I always remember that about the Beach Boys, that one of the Oasis Gallaghers laid into him because BEA. Anyway,
Just to continue this story, so I'm getting ready to do this show in British Columbia, and I don't know if I'm ever going to perform with the Beach Boys again. This could be a one-off. So I'm trying to be like, okay, Matt, when you get up there, like this might be the coolest thing you ever do in your entire life. So like those 45 minutes, like really be present and fucking enjoy. Because you know, when you do a show with a band, sometimes it's like, it's all a blur. And you get off stage and you're like, that was fun, but I don't remember anything.
It goes like that sometimes. You're just.
So I was like, when you're up there, oh, by the way, I should mention, they sent me all these parts to learn. And as I'm listening through the parts, I get to a couple of songs and my guy I'm subbing is singing lead. And I text the guy and I'm like, am I singing lead on Don't Worry, Baby? And he's like, yeah, you are. And I'm like, holy shit. So I have to sing Don't Worry, Baby with the Beach Boys with not even a sound check lead.
Ooh.
Yeah. That
It's
was
like
the one song
ultimate
where it's like
fighting
all
championship
me.
it's like the ultimate fighting championship of karaoke, like the ultimate like.
So I'm like, okay, Matt, enjoy this. Like really be here during this. Cause you don't know, like you're going to remember this. If this is the one time you do this, you're going to be on your deathbed and you're going to think about this. So fucking be here and don't fuck up. So I'm proud to say that while I was on stage during it, at least 2 or 3 times I stopped and I was just like, you're on stage with the Beach Boys. This is so fucking cool right now. Like
That's so rad.
And it was like my favorite show I'd probably ever done up till then, just because like it wasn't perfect, but it was amazing. Like beyond fantastical. Like we all have like gigs where we say, man, that would be like the coolest gig ever. That's my dream gig. But like,
And you
I wouldn't
got
have,
your dream gig.
I wouldn't have ever thought to be like,
How
oh yeah, the
fucking
Beach
cool.
Boys is my dream gig. Cause like, it just seems so unlikely.
I
Like, they're
know,
so much
right?
older than me, you know?
Well,
And
I mean, right there, to me, that's just bananas to think about. Like, if that was like, that's your dream gig, like, that's the thing that you are like going, that's infathomable. There's no way that could ever fucking happen. And if fucking happens, like, that's
Yeah.
who else really can, I don't know a lot
I
of
got no words. It was,
to
I
say
still
that.
have no idea how it all happened, but after the
Right.
show, everyone's super nice, told me I did a great job, whatever. I'm like, okay, I hope this happens again. We're driving back to the hotel, and the MD turns to me and he's like, what are your September and October like? Because this was August. He's like, what are your next 2 months like? I'm like, I mean, if you need me, I'll be there. You
Right.
know? And he's like, okay, we might have a situation. I'll let you know. Check this out. This is terrible and wonderful. So the guy who was supposed to be subbing, as you recall, the main guy who does my parts was on paternity leave, and they had a
Right.
sub lined up to fill in for him who played guitar and sang.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
only play a little guitar. I'm not a surf rock guitarist. I wouldn't have been able to pull that off.
It's a
too much.
very
I'm a keyboard
specific
player.
style of playing. Yeah.
So the guy who is subbing is a guy named Rob Bonfiglio. Rob is married to Carney Wilson, who is Brian Wilson's daughter.
Okay.
Okay. So he's in the Beach Boys family.
Right.
Brian Wilson is getting ready to go on tour. And one of his guitar players, who is only about 50 years old, drops dead, middle of the night, does not wake up.
Oh my God.
A guy named Nicky Wonder, who I had never met, but apparently a wonderful dude, does not wake up. And Brian Wilson is short a guitarist. And who does he call? Well, his daughter's husband. And his daughter's husband is like, well, I'm supposed to be out with Mike's Beach Boys. But I'm sure his wife is like, dude, you got to do this. You got to help my dad. Please go help my dad.
Right.
So he says to Mike, I know I was going to do 3 months of shows. I can only do the first 2 weeks of them. I'm sorry. So guess who gets to do all the rest of them? So because this dude died, I got to do 20 more shows with the Beach Boys.
Whoa. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, including I got flown to Florence, Italy to play a private birthday party for a rich dude who booked the Beach Boys and Queen with Adam Lambert for his birthday party.
Oh, you did tell me that story too. I remember a while ago.
Back to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right.
And that was the most surreal night of my life.
Full circle, baby.
Fast forwarding to me being in Italy with the Beach Boys almost a year ago to this day, like a year and a week. It was mid-September of last year.
God,
I'm in
look
Italy
how
with
much
the Beach
changes
Boys.
in a year. That's
Dude.
bananas, dude. I can't believe that.
I can safely say I preferred last September, but
Right. I mean, and also the funny thing about this thing too, for the
I
people.
remember the 25th night of September last year because it was around when I was in, okay, sorry, Earth, Wind, and
wait.
Fire.
Oh, do you remember?
Do you remember?
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. What the fuck was that? Did you hear that?
It sounded like a car. I don't know.
I don't know. That was weird. Technical difficulties,
But
maybe.
yeah,
Anyway.
when I was
Do you
in
remember?
Italy, first of all, I'd never been
Wait,
to
isn't
Italy.
Do You Remember? Isn't that December?
No, it's
which
September. How many weddings have you played, Mike?
I know, but hold on. Isn't there a December song or is it only September?
I'm sure there's a December song.
Is that the
but-
song that's Bought It Up?
Yeah.
Okay, that is September. Sorry. I don't,
Copyright violation. No.
forgive me, Matt. As musicians and creative people, my head is filled with so much stuff and I can only I'm not that smart. That's what I'm
Sure.
saying. Okay. Thanks.
But anyway, I'd never been to Italy and much of Europe at all. And like being able to go, first of all, like I took an extra like couple days, saw the Statue of David and shit. But the coolest thing
Is that the naked guy?
That's the naked guy.
Right.
Which-
I know that one.
There are very few times in my life when I've seen like a work of art or a building or something where I'm just like, and that was like one of those moments. Where
Is it really? Like that's one where you're just like, holy shit.
Dude,
'Cause, I mean,
it
you
is-
see pictures and you're like, all right,
it
whatever.
is massive. It is huge.
That's
It's huge.
what
Yeah.
can I
Well, it is huge, but the statue is also huge, man.
I was gonna do it. That's what she said. Sorry.
That's what she said.
I'm 12 years old.
But I'm first of all, if you're only going somewhere for a few days and it's somewhere like Europe, you don't want to go to sleep even though you're exhausted. So as
right.
well
You
as
want
I
to
do,
see everything that
you're like loopy. You're so tired.
right. Yeah.
So we do this set on this guy's private property in friggin' what do you call it? What's like wine country in Italy? Tuscany.
Tuscany. That's right. I couldn't think.
And we do this set, and this guy is he's an American dude who moved to Tuscany who's super rich. Some like medical
Does he got a
rich
name?
dude. I don't remember.
No, not
Doesn't
like
matter.
okay, all right.
He's not a famous rich guy. He's just a rich
Right.
dude.
Oh, okay. That's what I was asking. Yeah. Like,
And
look at
so
Matt
he
Jordan with the
has
name dropping.
multiple stages set up, and ours is like set up near like the party proper. But then there's like a huge tent like set up, and the inside is just like it's like a rock stadium in there with the lights and shit for Queen.
No shit.
So it's like it's not like as big as a stadium, but it's a rock show vibe. Like our vibe was like it's a show at a party. There inside there is a fucking rock show.
No way.
So
Wow.
we finished this set, and I get really high with some of the guys in the band.
Hell yeah, you do.
Mike Love. The funny thing is that Mike Love, he doesn't like it if people are like smoking very much on the road, or certainly not drinking before the shows. He wants everyone on their game, right?
Right.
Like afterward, it's probably okay. But that was the funniest thing about the fact that the first gig I did was Canifest, because he's not really like big into weed, which is strange.
Maybe
anyway,
it's one of those things is like when we're performers, we need to be sharp and let everybody else party because technically we're doing a job.
Right. But afterward,
You know what I
it's party
mean?
time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
get
I
that.
was like, when am I going to be in Italy with the Beach Boys again? I'm going to get super baked. And it was like kind of an accident, because I took like, it was one of those vape pens or something. And I took a hit of it, and it was like the biggest hit of a vape pen I've ever taken. And so I'm like, woo, like wandering around this guy's like grounds of his like mansion in Tuscany. And I like float over to the tent to watch Queen with Adam Lambert. And it's just like the most surreal experience. And I turned to Mike Love and his wife, who probably think I'm fucking hilarious because I'm so off my ass. And I'm just like, thank you so much for bringing me here. I'm going to tell my kids about this someday. Like, it was... Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
that was
See,
probably the coolest night of my life.
Now you know how I felt when I was high watching you perform Tiny Dancer at the
Oh,
Viper
you're going to tell your kids about that night?
No. But it was magical. It was magical. I was like, I remember watching going, I was like, look at him. He's fucking doing it, man. Like, I don't know what it was, because I was just like, because you're really good at all of that kind of, you're really great at the Beach Boys stuff, the Elton John stuff, like, you know, anything.
That's my specialty. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything that's like piano heavy driven, even especially like, cause you do a great job of when I've worked with you and you've done covers or you've done your performances, especially when we just done jams, and you almost kind of do this really cool thing where not a lot of people
but not quite.
I mean, no, like literally it's you do this great thing that not a lot of people are great at doing, is when, because again, we worked with so many musicians all the time, and you can watch them and go, oh, this is a really good cover. They're doing a great job with this song. That's all fine and good. But you have this special spin where it's almost like you wrote it. You kind of put this like you put your own stamp on it. Like, you're not up there doing an imitation. You're not up there just going through the motion of like, yeah, I'm singing this song, I'm playing this song. It kind of really does feel like, I mean, I know it's Tiny Dancer, or I know it's Piano Man, or I know it's, you know, Pet Sounds or whatever, but it does have this, because I know all your original material as well, it has like this spin to it, and I think that's what kind of makes it even more authentic. Do you know what I mean? So I want to congratulate you on that, because I don't think not a lot of frontmen singers.
Thank you for saying that. I don't know. I feel like there's some things about my vocal stylings that, like, for better or worse, not a lot of people do. I'm not sure if it's like good or bad. It's been fun for me to be like the falsetto guy, because in my like rock voice, people tell me I sound like Richard Marx a lot. I have that like in my voice. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on?
Wherever you go.
Oh, I'm like,
whatever you do.
I'm almost thinking like I was almost going with the Neil Diamond vibe of like, hey, like that kind of.
No, I'm
like,
hoping I don't sound like Neil Diamond.
But that you'd have to smoke, I think, a lot of cigarettes to get to that point. Or
probably.
Like that. Yeah, you'd have to get that gravel in there and everything. That's so fucking funny, man. That's hilarious.
But yeah, so now you know the true and strange, twisted story of the confluence of events of how I ended up touring with the Beach Boys, and then how just, you know, a few months later, someone asks if they can use my Good Vibrations cover for something else. I'm just like, I guess I'm just the Beach Boys guy. So I'm cool.
You're the Beach Boys guy. Yeah, exactly. I tell you one thing, one of my favorite, and again, congratulations on that. Because I mean, especially at a time right now where we have the technology to be at home. And even a couple of years ago, you can work on something. I think about doing this kind of stuff all the time where, like, especially now where I'm like, I want to do a cover of this, or I want to do this, or I want to do that,
Totally.
just to see if it, like, to see what it does. And, if it takes a couple of years, great, and all that jazz. But
And
I
that's
think
why
one
I
of
think
my,
like, oh yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, before we do, because we'll get sidetracked and everything, we'll go into other things. I do want to mention, because yeah, I love the Beach Boys as well. They have that whole special what I envisioned California was gonna be. You know what I mean? Because I'm from Ohio, so to
Sure.
me, it was growing up with a movie like Almost Famous,
Yep.
and then
One of my favorites. Yeah.
right.
I think it
And
just turned 20. Rolling Stone just did an article about how that movie's 20
I
years
know. I
old.
just saw a thing about it today. That's why it popped in my head. And you know what's weird about that? I watched that movie for one summer, like almost every night. And I swear I haven't seen it since, but I know every scene. And the other thing about it, because that's Cameron
It's all
Crowe, right?
happening, Mike.
What's that?
Said it's all happening.
It's all happening. It's all happening. Yeah. And hold on. One of my favorite lines, one of the best fucking lines in that movie, where he's like, "Can we just skip the part where this is awkward and go to laughing about this in the future?" And Jason Lee's like, "Oh yeah, okay." And he's like, "Because I can tell by the look on your face, you're pretty pissed off." He's like, "How can you tell? I'm just one of the out of focus guys." Because of the
Yeah.
Jason Lee is the best in that
He's
movie.
great. Yeah.
But Cameron Crowe, he did, because he's the Beach Boys in I think of Vanilla Sky. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, sure.
Because that is when Tom Cruise is tripping out in that dream world thing, and they're doing picking it's Good Vibrations, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And isn't he screaming like it's a nightmare, or like that kind of a thing? Like
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really cool. I love when directors and writers can take like a song,
Sure.
and it's like California Love, Beach Boys, whatever, and then they put it in like a New York City dream, like, because it's a great song and it's supposed to be happy, but this scene is like a nightmare. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I like how they can kind of like balance it out or whatever like that. So when I think of the Beach Boys, my mind goes to Tom Cruise trying to figure out if Penelope Cruz is Cameron Diaz. That's how that goes for me. But anyway, what were we talking about?
I don't know. But what I was going to say, the
Sorry.
one thing I've learned
I cut you off.
No, the one thing I've learned from all this random cool shit that happened from this cover I did years ago is like, put shit out there. Like, if you want to put a cover online or just put yourself out there, like put stuff into the universe. Because in my experience, almost all the coolest shit that I've ever gotten has been from other random shit that seemed unrelated and sat there for a little bit,
That should be your quote, like on your business card, is that all the shit I've ever gotten is from all the other random shit I've ever done.
But no, like what I'm saying is, I mean, you tell me.
I know.
I have gotten probably 0 interesting gigs from auditions.
Yeah, I think there's something to that where maybe it's a mental thing, like a metaphysical thing. Like, you ever notice, like, when you are so focused on doing something and you're just like, I'm going to do this, or I want to get this, you don't get it. And then the other shit out of you're talking about the shit that you're like, I never would have thought.
Right.
That's what it always is. It's the things that you're not thinking about, And I know that's weird because that shit happens to me all the time too, and it's like, but it goes with that same token as, like, I always say, put yourself out there, go out there, try something. It's kind of one of the motivational things that helped me start this podcast, was because I was like,
exactly. Yeah.
even if it's not this that I'm going to end up doing for a long haul, maybe it'll lead to something else. Maybe it'll spark.
Like 2 years from now, someone could like hit you up and be like, hey dude, I heard your podcast. Like, your personality is super awesome. You want to host this like cool show I'm doing?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Whatever. You never know, man. You never know.
Exactly. It
like,
could
if
be,
my random cover I put online gets me a gig with the artist, anything is fucking possible. Like,
right. Exactly. Yeah. And especially with what we're up against right now, and especially with all the technology, like, you can do everything from home. We can't go anywhere. And that, I think you and I come from like that school of like, we'd go out, we meet people, we work in person. We more so network in person.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how I ended up getting the Rooney gig, was because of the Sunset Jam, because of Sean Sobash.
Oh, really? Well, there you go. let's
Sean
talk
was
about.
working with Rooney already, and he got me and Max Flanders into the band just because they needed a keys player and a drummer, and he was like, "Let me get some dudes I know from the Sunset Jam."
Boom, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how all that. That's what's great about.
That's like a more of a traditional, like, go out, meet people, like play with people at jams, and they'll think of you for gigs. Like
Right.
that's like connecting point A to point B pretty normally.
Right. Right.
You know,
Well,
and
I
that's
had
like the best thing that a lot of people can do to like be proactive, but also just putting content out there, you know, even if
Yeah.
you don't think anyone's looking, you never know.
Right, right. And the same thing with like that random stuff that happens is like I remember 3 years ago now, I went to a birthday party at, you know where it was at? What's the name of that place on La Brea? That we went to not that long ago before COVID. The German place for
Where's house? Where's house?
Word's House. Yeah,
For Toby's birthday?
for Toby's birthday.
For Toby's annual birthday party? Because who else
Dude.
has a birthday party there?
That's right. That's a good point. I forgot. We all know the same people.
Yep.
So 3 years ago, his birthday, I was there. Somebody else was at that restaurant who was not a part of the crew in the birthday. They were there. I bumped into them, hadn't seen them in a while, and they were like, "Hey, are you a fan of Green Day?" And I was like, "Yeah, fucking love Green Day." And they were like, "Oh, I'm doing the musical in Burbank."
That's right.
And I have, you know, he's like, I have my band. The band's called The Evening Guest. His name is Yokul, and he was like, we have a couple of dates that conflict with the play. Can you be our fill-in guy? And I was like, sure. And then the play got extended, and then I was a permanent guy. And it's one of those things where
Yeah.
you're just like, I was not trying.
What a fun gig that was too. It was cool
Oh,
to
it
see
was a
that.
fucking blast. I mean, because we did that with who the fuck Alec DeCarver. Frogs McCormick. Yeah, he played on bass.
Frogs is a
John
cool
Bun-
dude.
I know. I just did a gig with Frogs.
Oh,
We did the
really?
90s gig. We did the 90s cover gig.
With Thomas?
No.
No.
This is with a group called Dick the Citizen, and they literally just play all grunge shit from like the 90s and pop, like whether it's like Soundgarden to like Blur or like, you know, Nirvana or like Weezer, stuff like it's stuff like that. And the bananas part about it that drove me crazy was that I was like, you know, they're like, oh, it's for somebody's like 50th birthday party. And I'm like, they want to hear 90s shit? And they're like, yeah, think about it. They were 20 when that shit was jazzing and popping. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. So it's like 90s shit is like kind of like classic rock now. And I know I'm like, we're all getting older. It's all downhill from here. It's but no. And that's yeah, exactly. When we did Green Day, it was when you do the American Idiot play, you're supposed to be on the stage.
Okay. So the band's supposed to be up on the stage.
Mm-hmm. But this theater was so small.
Right.
Sorry. I'm not gonna make it.
Woo! It's getting hot in here without my AC on.
I know. Oh, why? If you had the AC, would it be blown?
It'd be like,
Would we hear it? Yeah.
You don't want that.
No, but the band's supposed to be on stage, but at this particular theater, it was way too small, so they couldn't be on the stage, which sucked. But they put us like in this attic that was off to the side of the stage. So it was kind of cool and, you know, whatever. And we were like basically just like having our own little private party back there.
Nice.
And we had like our in-ears in. So it literally, that's one of the great things I love about in-ears is that sometimes.
Since we couldn't see you up there, I definitely hope you were drinking the entire time.
I can neither confirm or deny. Let's just say it was a good time. And at the end of the night, I was tired.
Okay.
I was tired. Anyway, but yeah, and it was the cool thing was, so instead of being a band on stage, we were literally a soundtrack. And when you're hearing it in the ears, you're like, oh my God, like this sounds like the American Idiot Broadway thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is great, but it's also scary when you hit a bad note because then there's like, you're like, everyone heard it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's no getting around it. And that was probably the fun. So yeah, it's that same kind of thing where like I grew up, my brother was always like listening to Sublime and Green Day and Tom Petty and, you know, Foo Fighters and shit. So I grew up in that world. So when that kind of shit comes up and they're like, hey, do you want to play all of Green Day's songs? Basically, I'm like, fucking let's do it. Like it's just, I'm one of those people where I'm like, you just give me 3 chords and a beer, I'm a happy guy.
Oh yeah. What a fun, cool gig for you. That's like right up your your vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it's like it's one of those fun things I love about being a musician is talking to certain people that like I know a lot of people shit on Green Day or they shit on bands like that, especially if it's too easy.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? As a musician, you can kind of like if it's not your thing, you're like I'm bored with this. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
sure.
But like if you dig it, you're like I don't have to think, I can just have fun. But you know what I mean? So it's like that kind of a type of deal. So that's kind of my stance with it. But anyway,
I'm kind of
so
excited along that line. My next possible tour, if COVID ever ends, that
oh,
I may have in the works. I don't know what's going to happen.
can you talk about it?
I
Because I
was
think I
supposed
know
to.
what you're talking
I
about.
was supposed to go out with them in June. I'm assuming it's okay if I mention it. I may be going out with Everclear, which
Oh,
is super 90s and
hold on
fun.
1 second.
Yeah.
I just found out since you mentioned you just got fired. They just texted me.
Oh
It just
crap.
it's on the news. They weren't supposed to talk. Anyway, I'm kidding. No, yeah, it was Everclear. I remember you told me about this a while ago.
Yeah. So I'm kind of waiting to see. Like I might be forever down the line, and we'll see if it actually happens. But we were supposed to go out in June. It was on the books.
And how
like that.
fun are those songs? That's what I'm talking about. Those are
Right.
just like fun, kickback. I mean, like when I think of that's another Southern, that's a SoCal band, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, Santa Monica is like one of his big songs, you know. So,
Right. There you go.
and the
Yeah.
kind
Well,
of the funny thing about Everclear again is, and I didn't know this until I think my dad had was looking him up, and he was like, "Oh, that man, that there's like some articles online about how the main guy from Everclear, Art, is like really difficult and like, you know, hard to work with and stuff." And I'm like, "Really?" Because he's fucking super nice to me. I think my new brand is going to be the guy who like gets along with like the assholes in the music biz.
right. There you go.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
with the difficult people because they're not that difficult, man. I don't know.
I know that is a weird thing that I hear all the time when you're like, but that's the thing. But also too, I mean, again, from what we do with the jams and all around town, it's still kind of like high school.
Yeah.
People are always just fucking running their mouths, and you hear somebody go, "That guy's an asshole," and you're like, I'm always like, "All right, I don't fucking know." You know what I mean? Unless I experience something personally, I'm with you where it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, they've always been nice to me, like whatever, kind of like that. But I mean, it's short of it being like an actual bad reputation to where they're like, because some of the things, like I'm sure you've probably gone through this ropes. One of the things that happens all the time is like when I first moved out here, I kept getting picked up, um, or finding myself in situations where there's like and you would not know who they are now, obviously, because it's just the kind of people they are. They're either bands or an artist where they jip people out of, you know, like they try to get people like involved in their project, but they have a horrible reputation where you hear from like everybody where they go,
Oh yeah.
"Do
I've had a
not
couple people
work with
contact me
them."
where I've gotten like a weird vibe. I
Right.
remember one time
And
this
that
chick
happens a lot.
contacted me for some random local gig, and she was just like, "Well, I mean, do you expect to get paid for rehearsals? Because like I've been talking to all these people, and like everybody expects to get paid for rehearsals, and like I don't see why I should pay you to rehearse." And like
She said that
I'm,
to you.
on her initial call to me, she's saying this kind of
Great
stuff, and
sales pitch. Great sales pitch.
I'm just like, okay, you sound great to work with. And
Right.
I
That's
think
difficult to
she
work
had
with.
also reached out to Griffin and was similarly like totally like rude to him. And yeah,
Griffin Wright
like
is a buddy of ours who plays
yeah,
drums. He's an awesome drummer.
I'm assuming everyone who listens knows everybody. I'm sorry to be so familiar.
Hey, you don't know, I might have like fans
You
from,
might have fans from like, you know,
all over
Taiwan
the
or
world,
something.
and they're like, I don't know who Griffin is. Fill me in,
Griffin
man. I
Wright,
don't.
look him up.
Griffin Wright, look him up.
Alan
He's awesome.
Stone's drummer. Alan Stone's
That's
drummer.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They were touring a shitload last
He
year.
was on the
right?
road when COVID struck. They got called home.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I
They were
forgot
mid
about
tour.
that. Yeah. Well, you know what? I had a similar situation not that long ago, actually, and this artist will remain nameless. Was like I think it was like a year ago now. They hit me up because I did a jam with them at one of the venues out here in LA, and they go, I love your energy, I love your vibe, I love the whole thing. Would you like to like work together?" And I was like, "Sure." And so they sent me an email and they were like, "Hey, listen, so I'm thinking about like having like rehearsals. I'd love for you to come in. We might have like a couple of these shows and like these things coming up. Like I think there was even a couple like maybe like a festival here or two or something like that." And um sent me all the songs. They sent me the songs. They're like, "Let me know what you think." And I thought they were pretty damn good. I was like, "Wow, this is pretty much up my alley. It's like kind of rock. It's got like effects in it, you know, very whatever." And I was like, "This seems great." And then I go, "So, and what I did was I can't remember the order of how this happened exactly, but I remember at some point I go, well, here's what I normally charge, because this person was going under an artist name. They weren't like a band name. All their shit was done,
Right.
recorded, everything. They just needed somebody to rehearse with real quick, play some live shows, make them look good. And they were like, well, I really, I'm kind of, I want you to be more of a band member. And, you know, if we make, and I
one of
go,
those. Oh, one of
and I
those
go,
people.
oh, okay. And I go, so let me get this straight. All the songs are recorded. Those are done, written.
Yep.
And you have your co-writers. That's it. You,
They're going to make no royalties.
correct. And it's also your artist name.
Yep. I
And
had
it's-
the exact same thing happen a while ago too.
And I looked, and here's what drove me fucking crazy is that I'm connected with them on social media, and from what it looks like, unless they just have friends who have nice fucking things, it looks like they have a nice house and nice ass cars.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going, and I remember meeting them at a show, and I'm looking at them, and you can just kind of maybe, I can, you know, you can tell when somebody's got money and they got like that jacket on or they got those pants on. You're like, those are fucking expensive. And I'm going, you have the fucking money. Like, what are you doing?
Right. I had the exact same situation happen like a long time ago before I was, yeah.
And let me clarify real quick too, so it's not misconstrued. It's not just about the money of like playing music. Like I only do it.
No.
It's about the simple fact that it's not a collective
Right.
creative thing.
Yeah.
Because here's what's going to happen. This artist is going to get to a certain level where they're going to get on a label and they'll go, fuck those guys. We're going to get you guys that we have.
Of course.
And it's like, dude, I did all that work for nothing. I don't have any royalties. I have nothing.
And you made no money during the shows. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Anyway, so I just wanted
I had
to
a situation
clarify,
like
right.
way back when, and I'm going to be very vague because
I know I had to be a little vague about this.
I've since reconnected with this person, and they're a decent person, and I don't want to badmouth them, but it was somebody. God, this was probably I was in my early-ish to mid-20s. I started gigging around as a side guy like in my late 20s. I wasn't doing that a lot. I was just doing my own thing,
Right?
my own music. And this was a person who I'm going to be really vague. I'm not even saying what gender they are, but I will say they are directly related to someone who would be considered rock royalty by certain people.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah.
Genetically related to this person in a major way.
Right.
And again, they brought me in to jam with their band and wanted me to like be a band member, but the band was just their name and all the songs were written. And like, if the songs weren't written and they were like, want to write with us, I would have totally done it. Because this person's like A, talented, and B, related to someone with connections. Right.
And make sure if you are in the writing process, you get your equal share. You
so
all
like
come
if
to an
I'm involved
agreement.
creatively, I'm super on board. I don't care if you want to perform as yourself. Like that's totally fine.
Sure. Yeah.
But like there's nothing in it for you if you're not getting paid to do it and you're not going to get any creative shit going on.
Right.
And it's not even like the band is named like, you know, fucking, I don't know why this is the first band that popped into my head, but Smash Mouth or something random.
Yeah.
Smash Mouth. But you know.
Well, it just takes one song.
You know,
They're an example of a band where they had like one song that drives everybody crazy, but I'm sure it paid for a lot of houses.
I'm just saying like a band name as opposed to like the difference between like being a band name and being like, oh yeah, I'm playing with this band. It's called Taylor Swift. Like that's great. Play with Taylor Swift.
Right.
But you know what I mean?
Even Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is not a solo act. That's a band name.
The Right.
But
it's
for
sort
instance,
of like you know, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, whatever.
Is he a band or is he an artist? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Doesn't Bruce Springsteen tour? Is Bruce Springsteen and the East Street Band? Isn't that like his thing?
They do, but what I'm asking is because what I know for sure is that anything that was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is considered a band collective.
Oh, I see.
Everything is equal. When he did Full Moon Fever in 1989,
you know your Tom Petty better than I did. See, I didn't know that he released stuff as not the Heartbreakers. And
correct. Double check that. Watch. When you learn that, you'll go, oh. Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever.
Did it sound different specifically?
A little bit. It has a little bit more of that Jeff Lynne ELO vibe because they were writing a lot together. So Tom Petty's Full Moon Fever is just Tom Petty, and he goes, I started working on it with Mike Campbell, their guitar
Was Tom
player.
Petty in the Traveling Wilburys? Was he a part of
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's weird though too. If you were to listen to like, Damn the Torpedoes, or fuck, I can't think of the other the other album names. You're Gonna Get It, stuff like that, or whatever. Or After Dark, or Long After Dark, I think it's called. That is, it has a different vibe than, for instance, Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever, which is free falling, running down a dream, I won't back down,
Yeah.
apartment song, Zombie Zoo, stuff like that. And I think the writing credit goes to Tom, Mike Campbell, and Jeff Lynne of ELO. Even though a lot of Heartbreakers ended up coming in and playing on it, it was released under just the name Tom Petty, so it counted as a solo thing. But of course, they always tour it. But that's what I'm asking about, is because what we're talking about too is that. So if you were to go into a band where it's like Joe Smith and the Gunslingers, but Joe Smith goes, "Hey, I'm Joe Smith, but guess what? This is a band. Like, you're going to get a percentage, you're going to get a percentage. We all write together and we write together, even though that's the name." Unless you're working with somebody who's like Taylor Swift, then it's like you're just a work for hire.
Right. Sure.
You're not, even though you're in the
But
band.
again, Joe Smith and the Gunslingers sounds like a band. It is Joe Smith, but it's a band.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's slightly different than just, hey, play with me. I go by Joe Smith.
Yeah.
But we're a band.
And you're like, no, we're not.
No, we're not.
Like, yeah,
we're not a band. It's you. It's not us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like
a
huge gamble, because you don't know this person, you don't know all this work that you're gonna go like put an effort into. And that's one of the craziest, trickiest things about being like a working musician out here is, I mean, and we always kind of like, we've had similar situations, you and I, where like we've been in the boat where it's like you kind of can gauge sometimes where they go, like, I've had it where some artists or some group has like been like, "Hey, can we, do a last minute, or can we go over?" Let's say they want to go over, and they're like, "But what's the rate for that?" or something like that. And you're like, "I'm like, whatever, don't worry about it. Like, we're already here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna nickel and dime for like every little thing." Do you know what I mean? And like that, you kind of find that balance where you're like, I want to make them feel comfortable just as much as I want them to make me feel comfortable. I think that's basically what I'm saying.
Everything is balance, I mean,
Right.
and you have to know, like I've had situations before where, it's like, oh yeah, the rehearsal's going to be $75, but they don't tell you how long it's going to be. And you think it's going to be like 4 hours, but you're there like 10 and you're like, wait, what?
That's a lot. That's a little bit of a cheap move.
Yeah,
I would say.
It's like, oh well, we're like, how long is it going to last? He's like, oh well, I locked out the room for the next 2 days. So
Dude,
we'll
even a fucking background actor is protected better than that.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because they have like fucking rules that they have to pay attention to. Because the second you go over, oh man, that's like, they're like, fuck, we got to pay these.
Oh yeah,
double
there's
time.
There's
like,
union. Even if you're not union, there's rules with being.
Oh yeah,
I did that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Any acting gig I've ever gotten, like, they're like down to a fine tooth comb with it.
Yes.
Like, even if I'm like, I just show up on like that first day or whatever like that, and they're like, "Do you like?" I remember the video shoot I did for the Strokes last year. If anybody gets a chance, check out Bad Decisions.
Oh yeah.
The Strokes. I'm in it. They right off the bat, and they were super sweet. They were a great crew to work with. It was probably one of the best crews I've ever worked with. But they were like so funny when they came around to payroll. They were like, "Do you understand what you're getting paid for?" Like, they were like, "I need to hear it." Like, you know what I mean? Like, not in a dick. They weren't like being dicks about it. They were just like, "We need to do our due diligence."
Yeah, no, they're very professional set.
Yeah. But in the music world, it's like, "Hey man, like, whatever. I don't fucking know." Like, and you're like, "What?"
Dude, I got to tell you, the very last Rooney show we did, we were like, we were not really sure what our rate was going to be. And we were kind of all like, well, we think we should make more than we would normally make for a one-off. And we all just ended up invoicing for what the rate we decided was fair and hoped it worked. And it worked.
Sometimes that's the case too.
Sometimes it works.
One of the greatest things I love that happened was that there was a band I was in a couple of years ago, North of Nine, and when we did that band, and God bless the drummer Rob, he was like, we got our like contract, and I think because his older brother had a lot of experience out here with doing stuff, and he was like, "Hey, this is what I think you should do." And all four of us got together, and when they asked, "Hey, how do you feel about the contract?" we were like, "This is what we all all of us agree on this.
Yeah.
That way, anything we worked on in the future or we were doing, there was no guessing work. There was no,
That is always the best way. You need to get
Yeah.
together with your bandmates who are in the same boat and be like, we need to mini unionize
pretty much.
and
Yeah.
collectively decide what we think is fair and go to the artist or management and be like,
Right.
here is what we as a group
Right.
decide. You know,
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
what we think is right.
And that's a really good
Because
thing.
I've had the opposite where like, I'm asked, you know, hey, will you do this tour? And I'm, you know, and it's someone I've worked with before. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I can't do it for the same rate. But like, if everyone else is like, well, we'll do it for the same rate, then you're the one dude who's like asking
Right.
for more money.
Yeah.
You look like a dick.
Yep.
You know, like
I had something happen like that with an acting gig a couple of years ago where, and this is the difference. This is also the other one difference, like for acting, because everything's like pretty much on your own. Like it's all on you kind of a type of thing. And it's the camaraderie's there, but it's different. It's a different camaraderie. And I remember being on set and talking with one of the other actors, and they were saying something like, oh, I had to drive all the way from, you know, such and such.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I mean, put it in your, you know, put it in your invoice or whatever, put it in your fucking thing. And they were like,
what?
are you getting reimbursed for that? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, did you ask? And I was like, yeah. So some people don't
Oh.
ask. And that's the other thing too, is I'm sure if a company was like, okay, actor 1 asked, so we'll give them their reimbursement. Actors 2 and 3 didn't. So they're like, if they don't say anything, fuck it. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I honestly, I wouldn't think that sets would reimburse you for travel unless they say they're gonna. So I would never think that to ask that.
Everything's different too. I've gotten like
Yeah.
the breakdown of like, hey, like if it's so many miles, you know, we'll reimburse you for this, or if you're traveling, or if you're doing this, or if it's like a fitting
Sure.
day or whatever. And it always just kind of depends. And my thing has always been,
Is that in your end or
no,
mine?
I think that's on your end.
I
Is
got
that a
my
car?
in-ears in, so I can't really tell. Yeah,
That
that
was
was
a-
probably
yeah.
a car. Cars speed down the street. Like they like drag race. Because there's, you know, I live by that crazy intersection. And
Right,
so
I know,
cars
yeah.
want to get through that real bad. So they
Right,
speed
yeah.
up.
That's the first time I heard it. We've been doing this for like an hour and a half or
Hour
something.
and 20 minutes. Yeah, we've been talking a
Hour-
while.
Yeah, and I was like, that's the first one I've heard. That's not
Do
too
you have
bad.
any other important questions you want to ask before people like fall asleep? I don't know how long you normally do these.
I usually go for. Did I not tell you? It's like I'm doing
3,
Joe
4
Rogan.
hours?
Joe Rogan did one for 5.5 hours. So I'm gonna.
Holy shit.
Did I not talk to you about that? That we're gonna do like 7. We're gonna see
I don't
how
think I'm
long.
going to have enough space on my iPad for the video.
Where are we at? We're like a what? Like an hour 20?
Hour and 20, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Just
like.
flew by.
Yeah, I told. That's how it kind of goes, man. Yeah, but no. I was gonna say.
This
If
has
you
been
wanted
super
to-
fun though. I've enjoyed chatting.
I
with
know
you.
it's been good seeing you, man. Like even though it's not really in person, you know, but we got to
It
do.
feels like it.
Yeah, I know. And it was cool to like kind of like sit down and like talk with you, especially because the other weird thing for me though is it's like I've already known. I had to play a little bit of a host with it because some of this stuff I know you've told me, but it's been like over the course of like I don't know.
I've
Maybe like
told you as like friends
two-
chatting. It's different
chatting
than,
2
yeah.
3 years in the process and stuff like that. The only thing I really didn't know about was like the kissing booth and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, like let me ask you this, like I don't know if you do got to get going, but
We
you
chat.
you
but,
don't have
I mean,
to. Yeah.
it's mostly that I want to turn the air conditioning on.
Do it. Try it, see what happens.
It's fine.
Try it. I
How much
wanna-
longer can we possibly go? Another 20
$10
minutes?
says I won't hear it. How much you want to bet I won't hear it?
I heard it pretty loud in my in-ears. When
Can I
had
hear it
on
real
while I
quick
was
just for
testing it.
shits and giggles? Let me see. Just kick it on. Fuck it. Who cares?
I have to get off I have to walk and. Is that what you want me to do? You want me to like walk away during the.
Oh,
I'll have to
it's
edit
okay.
this part out.
We could edit it. I don't care. Or we leave it in or whatever like that. All I'm saying is if you're roasting, I want you to be comfortable. Turn the AC on. You probably won't even be able to notice.
Let's see. Edit this
Let's
part
see
out.
what happens. Yeah, we'll edit it out. Or I won't, and I'll be a jerk about it, and I'll keep it in and not tell you that I didn't. No, I'm kidding. I want to be a bad host like that. I'm checking on things. Seeing, has anybody missed me during this podcast? Let's see who has missed me. I'm checking my phone and being a bad host, even though.
So I hear it really loud in my in-ears, but maybe it's not going to be that loud for you. I don't know.
Wait, hold on. Maybe I do hear it.
It just sounds like.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
do hear it. You're right. It
I'm
is
gonna turn it
coming
back
through.
off.
Okay. Oh, that's too funny. See, but this is also too, like, I don't have to be like, that's the cool thing I like about the podcasting thing is it doesn't have to be like super polished and clean. And like, do you know what I mean? Like all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Like, so I could technically leave that in there if that's okay with you. You know?
It's up to you, dude. I mean, I don't
I
think
don't
anyone
care.
gives a shit about listening to me turn my air on and off. But if you want to leave it in, go right ahead.
No, it's not like they're going to be like, well, I was enjoying the show, but then they talked about the air conditioning and they debated on it for like a couple of minutes, and that really fucking pissed me off or whatever.
Well, I will say this: anyone who's gotten this far is invested enough that they probably don't care.
That is true. That's a good point. And they must really love the two of us. So let's look at it that way.
All right.
So, that being said, since this is such a new process and everything, if anybody out there is watching this episode and you've hit this mark, drop us a comment and say, hey, motherfucker, I listened all the way up until this point because I would want to
And
know.
I heard the air conditioning, so thank you for
I
turning
heard
it
the
on.
air conditioning. I've had that happen in episodes where like my chair squeaks or something, and I'll go, it's driving me crazy during the show. And then I'll go back to editing and I'll be like, oh, you can't even hear it. Like, it's not even, the microphone didn't pick it up or whatever like that. It's
Right.
really fucking annoying. Anywho, but so we covered, what was the thing you were talking about with Rooney? And there was something else I was going to bring up to you and I totally fucking forget it. Oh, I know. Is there anything that you can tell people like what are you working on now? What do you got going on? What are you doing to keep busy during COVID? How are you becoming a working musician again?
I mean, right now I'm like, I've been spending time. I got a new laptop and a new interface, and I'm like learning main stage and like reprogramming a lot of my sounds.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were
main stage and like,
right.
It's sort of weird to me that like I have all these like expensive keyboards and everyone's using like $30 main stage for all their sounds.
No, that's not.
I mean, everyone uses their virtual instruments, so I have plugins that cost more, but it's still weird to me. It's like, why did I spend all this money on gear if everyone's using this $30 computer?
Yeah, but we didn't have that a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So I've been teaching myself that. I've been actually playing a lot of guitar, which is cool.
Oh yeah, I've seen a couple of it. Sounds good, man.
I'm doing okay. I play cowboy guitar, you know.
That's all you need. That's why I said it's just fucking play Green Day songs and AC/DC shit. It's just 3 chords. That's the greatest thing. I don't have to think about it too much. It's not like when I go and learn like a fucking Soundgarden song and I'm like, wait, what time signature does it go to again? Like, I have to think. You know what I mean? I don't want to fucking do that. No, I know that's the thing. Like, I'm trying to. I'm just like, I think that's why I did this fucking shit because I was just like, I just needed some different way to keep busy.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like every day, and I think for me it was like I needed like the break from music in a way. Where before COVID, I was working like crazy, which is great. But when you're working on music all the time, music starts to get a little sour. You know what I mean?
I understand. It was weird. Like before COVID, I remember it was like in January, I was like, whoa, I had like all these corporate gigs and a tour already lined up for this year. And it's only January. Like this year's going to rock. Oh, wait.
No.
It's like, this is the first time I've had a tour already lined up and it's only January. This is amazing. Oh, never mind.
Nope, nothing. There you go. Yeah, exactly. I know, dude. That was the thing. I felt like I jinxed it a little bit because I know this has nothing, you know, the world doesn't revolve around me. But I remember, no, it turns out it doesn't. I thought it did because I'm a guitar player. Isn't that the joke? Like lead guitar players think the world revolves around them, even though it revolves around the singer. Right, exactly. No, and I remember in January, like right when the new year hit, I was like, I made like a post and it was like one of those feeling grateful posts, which I normally don't do, but I was legitimately feeling grateful. So I was like, I think this year is going to be great. And then I was like, fuck. Like,
you know how at the end of every year, everyone writes their like reflectory posts about how the year was. I wonder what this year is going to be like. This year is going to be funny.
I know, right? But dude, it was kind of like a good reset button. And I mean, minus the whole tragedy and everything. And of course, for the families who have suffered, and it's fucking horrible and everything. I mean, and everything's like up in the air, and the terrible fucking things have happened in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. But the only thing that, like, I mean, for me, I guess I just try to do the best that I can to like throw a solid spin on bad situations, because I've had my ups and downs. And when I was like, all right, like, what am I gonna do? And I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't feel that pressure anymore. That pressure, for like my career. And I was like, okay, just take this time. I was like, you do you. You draw yourself a bubble bath and you put on a good movie and you take care of Michael. That's what you're gonna do. And that's kind of what I started. And it was like a nice, good
Fair
reset.
enough, man.
You know what I mean? Yeah. In
Yeah, I
that
mean,
voice.
look, yeah, you had some rocky times. You needed to do that. You
Oh,
had
yeah.
some emotional ups and downs in there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm glad you
Last
did
year,
that for yourself.
yeah, exactly. I was like, last year was fucking bananas. And I was just like, all right. Because when you wear yourself, you can wear yourself super thin out here in this city. You're just like doing too much. And that's what I was doing. I was like, I'm doing too much. I got too much shit going on. And then all of a sudden it just stops. And like, I don't know about you, but like, did you go through that wave of like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, I'm kind of getting comfortable with this. And then then you get like full on anxiety of like, when's this going to be over? And then it just like, you know what I mean? That kind of,
Yeah.
that
It was,
kind of,
but for me, it was like, oh, okay, everything's come to a stop. This is interesting. I can handle this for a couple months. And then like a couple months went by and I'm like, then I had to like cancel my wedding. I mean, I'm legally married, but I had to cancel my wedding.
That's right. We were supposed to do all.
That's terrible. And then I had to cancel
many
my wedding
times-
again, so
Yep.
twice. And now I'm just like, fucking, I don't know when we're gonna do it. So it's just.
Or any of the parties, the bachelor parties, that's been rescheduled so many. We
I
were
don't
supposed
even
to,
fucking
what,
know
in
what's going
early
on.
August, we were supposed to go to Palm Springs. That was
By,
another
by,
backup
by the
plan.
time I do all this stuff, it's going to be like a year from when we were originally going to do it. I mean, it's.
You know what my favorite part about this though is that, remember what, last year around this time I think it was like you were talking to our friend Will Wu, who's a guitar player, awesome
Mhm.
guitar player. Shout out to Will, he's fucking
Shout
badass.
out to Will, who's at home, who hasn't left his house all year.
Yeah, and he was like, you were like, hey, can you make it to the wedding and the stuff? No, we were out at like your birthdays. No, what was it? And he was like, I don't know. I don't
He
know.
was like, well, it depends on if I'm working. I'm like, well, do you have anything yet? He was like, well, I don't, but I
yeah,
might be.
and I was like, fuck you. Like, just commit to this then, you dick. Like, it was so funny. And then turns out he was like, see, I told you I wasn't going to be able to make it.
Right. And now I'm like, Will, do you want to go have coffee in the park with masks on? And he's like, dude, I can't leave the house. I'm like, oh.
Is he really not left the house at all?
He goes on errands, but
But that's it. Is he like
Yeah.
super germophobic? I picture him being germophobic.
I don't know about that. I mean,
I'm freaked out
look,
about this.
I respect I respect people who want to be safe, but I wish I could
do
get
get
the dude
that.
to have a coffee with me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, I picture that. I get it. Like, if people are like, I am not, I'm like, all right, whatever, that's your choice or whatever. I'm like, that's fucking cool.
Right.
But I picture him being like, I'm not going anywhere. He could do Instacart. He can get his groceries,
I don't
delivered
know.
to
I
him.
love Will. The thing with Will is, I think Will will take any excuse to not have to leave his house. He's that kind of dude.
He is, yeah. That's what I told him. I told him as a guitar player, because we're both.
And I say that with the utmost love. He is.
Oh
one of
yeah,
my
and
best friends.
he'll say it too. He's the one who says it too. I remember a couple years ago when we first met, I was the guy to tell him to be like, hey, so if you don't want to go on tour or do a gig like that, why don't you just throw it to me, because I'll do it. Actually,
And
that's
he did
how
a couple times.
that's how I got connected with Thomas and Nicholas, is
know,
because of
yeah.
fucking Will. So fuck Will, you're awesome. And my music acting agent, Nancy Clayton Music Management. So
I'm Nancy's my manager also.
exactly, you two.
Although I haven't really gone out on anything for her in a while, but I did a bunch of things with her.
Right, yeah, and it's just, it goes up and down like that. So big shout out to Will Wu and to the people out here in Los Angeles for always helping us out, get gigs, and get connected with each other. And
Absolutely, man.
dude, I'll let you get going here. Real quick, thank you so much for coming on and
Dude,
doing
I'm so glad we
episode.
finally got to do this. This is
I
a
know, me
blast.
too. Yeah, it would have been way better in person, but hey, what are you gonna do? We'll do another episode when we're in the clear, like next year.
Yeah, we'll do a follow up in person.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But so for everybody out there, if you get a chance, go stalk Matthew Jordan on social media, flood his
Right.
DMs, send him in.
MatthewJordan.com and then Matthew
Yep.
Jordan Music on pretty much all the social media things.
Right, yeah, you can check out all the stuff he's done with the Beach Boys. Check out the Good Vibrations cover, because that's
YouTube
awesome.
/Matthew Jordan Music. You can find that Good Vibrations cover there. And it's
Yep.
on iTunes and Spotify too. So
Yeah, and then watch the Kissing Booth or fast forward it to the end.
fast forward to the end of the Kissing Booth too. Unless
Yeah.
you're a teenage girl, in which case watch the whole thing.
Then watch the whole thing. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, dude. So thanks again for doing the episode. I had a blast with you, and tell Sasha and the bunny I said hi.
Two bunnies, they're over there.
Two bunnies, actual bunnies. He doesn't have Playboy models over. They're actual
Okay,
rabbits,
bunny
and
rabbits.
everything. Yeah, exactly. All right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the show. This is it. Goodbye. I love you. Hopefully, I will see all of you sometime in the near future in person. Thank you.
I hope so. Peace, guys.
Bye.